Minutes after 10 p.m. Central Africa time. Thames coming through with that one titled Love Me Jeje. And that brings us to our very first conversation for the evening tonight on Talk Thursdays. We are asking the question everyone is thinking, but a few are really trying to unpack. Is AI moving too fast? Now, generating images, scripting scripts, if you will, building campaigns, even mimicking voices. Is this a race that we can actually track and follow and keep in control is the question. Where do we draw the line between innovation, intimidation, creativity, and so much more? We're specifically honing into the context of social media, and we're doing this with Mongezi Mtati, who is a senior brand and marketing strategist, as well as the host of The Lead Creative with nearly 20 years in the digital space. Mongezi, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
Thanks so much for having me. Good evening, Shayla.
So you have seen quite a bit of transformation. You've been in this industry for 20 years. You've watched social media evolve. What are some of the highlights for you?
I think one of the biggest highlights for me is that the cost of production has reduced over time, right? So the level at which we are able to create quality work at a fraction of the cost in some instances has improved, right? So, and not so much, they're not only about the cost, but the cost of thinking, because a lot of the time that we spend in this space is time to think, right? So time to be able to create the amazing work that some of our clients, some of the brands really want, and doing so in a way that enables us to think between projects. So I think the idea that we're able to do a lot more efficiently has really improved over time.
Mongezi, my question is, at what point does AI stop being creative? I mean, this is a creative tool, and you have said that the speed at which we can produce content is excelling greatly. But at what point does it now just become something else? It's not even plagiarism, because it is new content, but you sort of feel like there is a stolen experience from the creator and those who are going to consume the content. No?
Absolutely. I think the point is or at least that line, right? That fine line is a line between transparency and, I guess, intent. So the intent or the intention might be good of creating a piece of content utilizing AI or utilizing some of these generative platforms, but we should be transparent about the fact that it was created using AI, especially when in some instances, it utilizes the likeness of people's voices, and it makes it seem as though those were created by actual people when they were created by AI. So one of the things that has been happening in recent times is that there are AI generated influencers. So you think that there's a person telling you about this car or reviewing that product, whereas it's an AI at the back of it. And if the brand or the creator doesn't tell you that it's an AI creating that, that's where that line of transparency and intent and ethics is really crossed. So to answer your question directly, the line or the point to focus on or to think about is the intention good, and is it ethical, and is it crossing a line where I'm not being transparent?
Now, Mongezi, as a marketer, we know that you play on the psychology of the human experience, right? You sort of draw and pull at those primal instincts that will have people following whatever it is you're trying to promote. How does this change with the context of AI? Because AI knows too much, is how I feel.
It does. This is something we had said in the beginning about the internet, right? The internet kept knowing more and more about us. And I think the AI utilizes the internet to make those correlations. So I think, if anything, it has made that process rapid, and it has made it besides the fact that it's quicker, it has also made it organized it better, if you will, right? So your interests or where you've appeared, for instance, in the media on public spaces, AI is able to make these connections and make these connections better. And in some instances, be able to predict future behavior. But these are things that researchers have been doing for a long time. And this is why you find that some brands, some of your favorite brands are ahead of others that are your least favorite. It's because they understand your behavior in that sense. So I think where the line is in trust, that when a person or humanity has entrusted you with something, has entrusted you with information, you need to use that information ethically. And I think that's where sometimes we kind of miss it. And some of the most loved or favorite brands are the ones that use that trust for the benefit of the people they serve. And the brands that lose their reputation or end up with bad reputations with legal ramifications are the ones that misuse that trust that people have on them.
Before we further this conversation, Mongezi, are you able to identify AI tags when people haven't mentioned it? And I'm asking you because this is your force field. This is your realm, your space. Can you see when someone is using AI and they're not trying to tell us?
In some instances, it's evident. There are instances when it's really evident, and there are instances when it isn't. And I think this takes us back to that intent versus transparency thing. So in instances when, if we step away from the brand space for a bit, in the political space, there are instances when misinformation or disinformation is pushed, creating AI or AI images or utilizing AI images, and that isn't used transparently. So where I think we put too much on AI is in the ethics, where we should be putting that on the humans that are utilizing AI for nefarious purposes.
Sure. The voice there of senior brand and marketing strategist at Roger Wilco and the host of The Lead Creative. It is 38 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. The voice there of Mongezi Mtati joining us this evening. We are discussing AI, breaking it down and sort of gauging how it has affected our experience of social media, not just from the user end's perspective, but also from the companies, the brands that maximize on this tool. If you do have questions, do find us on WhatsApp. +2 783 288 6684.
Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo kutuli bwanji ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. The sound of Africa is evolving. Experience our new mobile app. Free to download, free to connect. From Cape to Cairo, every beat tells a story. It's African Diaries on Channel Africa.
It is 20 minutes to 11 p.m. Central Africa time. Still in conversation with senior brand and marketing strategist at Roger Wilco and the host of The Lead Creative. That is Mongezi Mtati joining us this evening. The focal point of this conversation is AI and authenticity, where creative ends and responsibility begins. And essentially everything in between that, right? Mongezi, you've said something very interesting before. You've said that real magic happens when we step outside the lines. I think we stepped outside the lines, went into the robot, went into the water. Now we're somewhere where we can't identify. What did you mean by that statement?
I think so. Where we, in my view, we tend to, I think, abdicate responsibility from humans to machines is the machines create because a human has instructed, a human has prompted something, right? Like I say, create this image of President X with me at a party, for instance, right? I prompt the AI, and yet we will say an AI created this, or this was created in AI, and leave Mongezi outside of the prompting of the machine. The machine doesn't do it by itself; it's the humans, right? So I think where that intent really comes in, or that line comes in, is in the line of how do we, and this is a long-standing question that we've all been wrestling with as humanity, how do we ensure that humans are ethical in the use of machines rather than ensuring that machines are ethical where humans should be? So that's basically the point that I was making with that. That's sure, AI and any other, like a knife in the right hands can cut bread, but also a knife can be a weapon. That's what I meant.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the value add of humans, right? There is the reality that we are trying to escape responsibility, but at the same time, we need to take a moment to just look at the context of AI, right? We're still in its generative phase. This means that we are the ones feeding it information. We are the ones instructing it to do whatever it is it's doing right now. And so with that being said, I want us to speak to the users on the ground, right? This might not be a big corp. This is just an individual playing at home with their phone, okay? Trying to get creative. And there they are dabbling in some AI tools and tips and tricks that they found on social media and other platforms. How would you sort of guide them, counsel them to be responsible with this tool? And I'm saying this because for the most part, we're looking at big corps, right? It's like, hey, it's your problem, it's your problem, you created this thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like the users on the ground are the ones struggling the most.
I think the first thing to be aware of or wary of is that, as with any other machine or any other tool that simulates reality, be sure to use a machine or a platform that simulates reality for good, and use it responsibly. That's the first thing. And the second thing, while doing that, is because we are, to your point, at the infancy of these tools, where the laws haven't caught up, the usage hasn't caught up, all of these things haven't really caught up to the development of the tools. Also be wary that the things that you create, or the things that you might be doing on AI, even while playing around with the tool as a toy, it might have legal ramifications for you later. So, as with anything else, don't do things there that have long-term negative results for you as a person creating on these tools. And for the most part, the tools that we have access to on the ground, the very basic tools, I'm referring to them as toys, because a lot of the time that's what they are. A lot of the time they offer very semi-basic things. It's when you start paying for these tools and you start using the more advanced capabilities that they offer, that you start realizing how much you can do. And hopefully by then, the person has also matured their usage of these tools to realize that they shouldn't be using them for negative purposes, I guess, or dark reasons, I suppose, that would be of harm. I think don't use them for harm rather than use them for good, and use them responsibly.
Mongezi, I mean, with that being said, sometimes harm doesn't present itself as harm, right? So if Shayla goes and she edits her waist, okay, now Shayla doesn't have a waist. Which waist? And Shayla snatches her face using AI. That becomes a model that a 16-year-old will then think that they need to uphold to. It's a standard I've set that isn't necessarily real. So how do we draw the line between what is good and what is harmful?
I think when it comes to that, it's it's once again coming back to what we teach and tell humanity, right? So I suppose the point for me is it's not so much the tool, it's the person, it's the user that's using the tool for, call it, negative reasons. And I think where we've been seeing on social media is that there's definitely a movement towards, in quote marks, real beauty in this kind of sense. That real beauty is that people are different and people are unique and people are who they are in different parts. And that movement is actually growing. If anything, the algorithms on some of these social platforms actually tend to favor that because humanity has pushed towards these platforms being more responsible, being more exemplary, rather than showing unattainable standards of, call it, beauty, of accomplishment, of anything that poses harm to younger and less mature users on any of these platforms. So if anything, once again, it comes back to humanity has shifted more towards the responsible usage of these platforms. And it's likely that should Shayla do that, a platform algorithm will down favor or will downplay that content and upweight content of a positive nature. So there are also these checks and balances that outside of AI itself, you are finding on some of these platforms like an Instagram or Facebook or wherever else, because humanity has pushed towards responsible usage and responsible exemplary usage of platforms and showing of humanity in real and authentic ways.
Come on, so we are doing something right. I love this. I absolutely love this. Mongezi, for those who have heard you speak right now and they're saying, I want to hear more. Okay, I want the flavor, the sauce that is Mongezi, because you do afford us a podcast of kinds. Where do they find you?
So the easiest is Mongezi Mtati on all social media. The Lead Creative is a podcast that I run, theleadcreative.com. Find our latest content like this that empowers humanity, that empowers brands on the responsible usage of platforms. Go to rogerwilco.co.za. That's where we post all our content, and you can find our social handles there as well.
And then lastly, Mongezi, what is the most interesting thing that you've done with an AI tool before we release you?
I think the most interesting thing, and I want to use a very basic example, not a massive, huge one. So there's an NPO that I follow, and as you know, some of these NPOs, especially NPOs in townships, it's called Fudumala. Especially NPOs in townships, they are under-resourced. These guys use AI to show some of the good they're doing in schools so as to amplify the work that they're doing, which is providing school uniforms to kids, right? So instead of, to your point earlier about the responsible usage of AI and the responsible usage of platforms, so instead of showing the kids in a school environment, which can be problematic, they utilize AI to create the likeness of some of these children responsibly so that you, Shayla, Mongezi, who can donate to a cause in a township school where a kid needs school uniform, can do so. So these are some of the examples. Another example is an example where we created, or at least helped another NPO create mock-ups for some of their work in affordable ways, right? So it can be used for good to change humanity and change humanity for the better. So these are some of the examples, and these are examples that are accessible to anybody with an internet connection and a device like a phone to want to create something that serves humanity.
I think we will leave it at that, Mister. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Thanks for having me.
The voice there of Senior Brand and Marketing Strategist at Roger Wilco and the host of The Lead Creative, Mongezi Mtati, joining us this evening. 51 after 10 p.m. Central Africa time, 9 minutes before the second hour of the show. A quick breather, some music, and then when we get on the other side of 11 p.m. Central African time, I promise to make you laugh. Maybe not me, maybe